Since we have said God made everything and everything was good, then why is there evil? We can see that there's evil. We can feel, we can experience that there is evil. Evil is a mystery, but sin is even more of a mystery, because evil comes from sin. Evil comes from the choices of free creatures. One reason why there is evil is that creation is still incomplete. As we said, God made everything, and He has a final product in mind, but we're still working on it. It's not complete yet. There are still choices to be made. There's still things to be worked out. And we don't know how long it's going to take. We do know that we are not in an endless cycle, that there is an end, and that in the end, all will be well. Angels and humans both exercise free will, and this has brought about what you could call the drama of sin or the mystery of sin. And it's very difficult, and not everybody who experiences the effects of these evil choices is morally culpable. We all know that there are completely innocent people, for example, that are hurt by the evil in the world, sometimes directly by the person choosing to do something to them, or indirectly because of conditions that are caused by the evil choices of others. The reason we have free will is that love cannot be forced. Love must be a free choice. And we are made for love. We are made to be in perfect relationship with the love that is the Trinity, that is God. And therefore we must be able to freely choose to love. Even when we screw up, even when we made bad choices, God responds with love. He sends His Son for our salvation. We can't explain evil in a way that will satisfy us even intellectually, because the cross of Christ, which humanly speaking looks like one of the most awful events that has happened in the world, is the ultimate answer to evil, is the triumph of good over evil. But it's going to take us a long time to really see and appreciate it in that light. But God did not send His Son into the world to condemn it, but that the world might be saved through Him. God did not say, you guys screwed up, I'm going to send my Son to punish you. He said the exact opposite. You screwed up. I'm going to give you a chance to do better. More than that, I'm going to come myself and help you. I'm going to become one of you to help you. Now, when we're talking about creation, we do get into thinking about the relationship between faith and science. And even in the Book of Wisdom, in the Old Testament, it states that God ordered all things by measure, number, and weight. As we mentioned before, all the scientific properties and processes that we are able to discover with our intellects were placed there by God. They make sense. They behave in predictable and reproducible ways. Father Stanley Jackie, who was an historian of science, said that it's Christian ideas that made science possible. If you don't understand and believe that the world is governed by laws that are pretty much immutable, the laws of physics and chemistry, then scientific advance is not possible, because you're not going to believe or realize that things do pretty much react the same way every time. In a book called How the Catholic Church Built Western Civilization, it states that Catholicism recognizes miracles. There is such a thing as a miracle, But it wouldn't appear to be a miracle if everything happened randomly. Something can only be recognized as a miracle against the backdrop of an orderly natural world. Things always happen in a certain way. A man can't walk on water. That would defy the laws of nature. Therefore, that is a direct intervention of God that kind of suspends that law briefly and allows a person, a physical human man, to walk on water. In addition to many other things that Jesus did on this earth. And occasionally there are still miracles that happen in our world. Proven miracles, something that doesn't make sense scientifically, is required for a person to be canonized a saint. It has to be proven that someone prayed for this saint to intercede with God, and God allowed this miracle to occur to say, yes, I approve of this person. It wasn't the saint that performed the miracle, it was God through the intercession of that saint. So miracles are very unusual because normally things don't happen that way. And science, there couldn't be any science if things didn't normally happen in a certain way. I kind of like this cartoon, so I put it in here. Here's a couple of scientists. This guy apparently asked the other guy to take a look at his equations and see how that's working out. And he says, I think you need to be more explicit here in step 2. Actually, miracles and science are somewhat incompatible. Science can't say then a miracle occurs. They have to explain how and why something occurred. Whenever you talk about the church and science, the name Galileo comes up. Now, you can read a lot of things about Galileo, and there will always be controversy about him. And he did write and do research in many, many areas. And initially, he was welcomed by the church. He lectured in Rome. The Catholic Church has always been a great supporter of scientific pursuits. And many of the scientists that we know about from the past were not only Catholic, but they were priests, because Catholics appreciate the work and the order of God in His creation. But Galileo came up with the idea that the sun was the center of the universe, not the earth, as they thought then. And he was asked by the church to teach this as a hypothesis until some solid proof could be developed. They didn't tell him not to talk about it, but they didn't want him to publish it or say this is definitely true until he had something more solid to back it up than apparently he had at the time. But he refused to compromise and said to the church that certain verses in the Bible had to be reinterpreted because the earth was not the center of the solar system, the sun was. Apparently the church was open to this if proof was eventually presented. Please don't publish it, but you are still free to pursue this as a research project. Apparently he didn't agree to that. He was apparently a very stubborn person. Now, this is a very simplistic viewpoint, summary of the entire affair, but it is part of it. And I'm sure that there were closed minds and mistrust on both sides. But the church was not, and even then, and is not today, complete literal interpreters of the Bible. And they are open to scientific proof, because if science discovers truth, it cannot contradict God. Truth cannot contradict truth. Another thing is the question of evolution. And in the encyclical Humani Generis in 1950, Pope Pius XII said that scientific study of the origin of the human body is okay. You know, go ahead and study it. we can't get away from the reality that each human soul is directly breathed, created by God, but and could not have evolved from material things, as Pope John Paul II emphasized. But the physical evolution of the human body was most likely set in motion by God. That was his idea of how things were going to physically work themselves out. Our faith neither supports nor denies any particular theory of evolution. We are open to what the scientists can discover. People who call themselves creationists do not consider that the Bible consists of literary forms, that the beginning of Genesis, nobody was there to see it, and when God inspired the Bible, he did not place ideas so specifically in the minds of the writers. No, they were writing to express other truths. The Bible is not a book of science, never was meant to be a book of science. So evolution, the theory of the human body developing gradually, is not a heretical theory. Pope Benedict XVI, when he was still Joseph Ratzinger, well, I guess he's still Joseph Ratzinger, the same guy, as quoted in the book Catholicism, states that the physical sciences rest upon the finally mystical intuition that reality has been thought into existence and hence can be known. The physical reality is a rational reality, and therefore, as rational creatures, we are able to learn about it. Even Albert Einstein stated, "In the laws of nature, a mind so superior is revealed that in comparison, our minds are worthless." In other words, we just by observing creation and studying science, we can see how minute and finite our minds are in relation to a mind that thought all of this into being. So, in Gaudium et Spes, another Vatican II document, it states, "If methodical investigation within every branch of learning is carried out in a genuinely scientific manner and in accord with moral norms, it never truly conflicts with faith. For earthly matters and the concerns of faith derive from the same God. Truth never contradicts truth." Science does have its place, but we're still discovering more. We're still discovering more things, more details, more interactions, smaller particles that exist that were discovered in the last century, centuries ago, when the idea of the atom was first proposed. We did not have the equipment to detect the types of particles and energy that we're detecting now. They were already there. We just couldn't in any way know about their existence. So scientific investigation is good because you're investigating God's laws. As long as you don't think you're God, you're in good shape. And as a final thought, when it comes to knowing that God exists, St. Bonaventure said, "Whoever does not see here is blind. Whoever does not hear here is deaf. And whoever does not begin to adore here and to praise the creating intelligence is dumb."